For thousands of years, humans have been captivated by the exact same dream, wiping the slate clean to construct a flawless society from the ground up. But the 20th century tested those grandiose blueprints in reality. State-mandated attempts to engineer perfection led to brutal ideological revolutions, costing millions of lives and creating regimes that crushed the very people they promised to save. Today, facing profound inequality and ecological collapse, the pressure to change course is immense. We urgently need a way out. Yet our basic vocabulary for achieving this, our talk of building a better world together, is structurally flawed. To understand why, we have to look closely at those words. Take the word world. When we talk about changing it, we aren't talking about altering the physical universe or the cosmos. That scale is entirely beyond our reach. The political philosopher Hannah Arendt argued that the world is actually a fragile, human-made artifact. It is the collection of our institutions, our laws, and the public spaces we build to exist alongside one another. It is also deeply psychological. The phenomenologist Edmund Husserl called this the Lebenswelt, or the lived world. Our reality is constructed from culturally subjective experiences and shared assumptions that dictate how we see everything around us. Because of modern globalization, these differing lived worlds are now forced to interact constantly. We aren't trying to save a single unified canvas. We have to navigate a colliding plurality of distinct, delicate human systems. Which brings us to the word better. Better according to whom? The philosopher Isaiah Berlin argued for a concept called value pluralism. Take a look at this diagram showing two core human ideals, freedom and equality. Berlin noted that ultimate values like these are often mutually exclusive. There is a tragic contradiction built into our politics. If you construct a society that maximizes absolute individual freedom, economic and social equality naturally compress and suffer. If you enforce strict equality, you inevitably restrict personal liberty. To bypass this painful reality, modern Western thinkers leaned heavily into the myth of linear historical progress. They believed that history possessed a natural, mechanical forward momentum that would eventually iron out all these contradictions. Thinkers like Karl Marx championed this teleological view. He theorized that massive shifts in material production and class struggle would act as an engine, guaranteeing a fully emancipated endpoint for all of society. But the historian Michel Foucault dismantled that exact premise. For Foucault, history has no steady, upward direction. It is defined by violent discontinuities, arbitrary shifts in power, and changing definitions of knowledge. Better is an illusion, if you think of it as a guaranteed destination at the end of a timeline. In reality, it is a constantly contested, subjective value judgment that we have to negotiate every single day. That negotiation requires collective action, bringing us to the word together. When we say we will fix things, who exactly is the we? True societal transformation requires massive engines. You have to redistribute physical resources, redesign deeply entrenched legal institutions, and shift the cultural imaginary that dictates how people behave. Attempting to orchestrate that level of coordination from the top down triggers a severe conservative critique. The economist Friedrich Hayek warned against the fatal conceit of central planning, arguing that complex societies hold too much dispersed information for any single group to engineer successfully. Even when acting voluntarily, we fall into traps. This diagram illustrates the tragedy of the commons. It shows how rational, self-interested individuals will inevitably deplete a shared resource, leading to systemic collapse even when everyone knows the danger. In the past, grand ideological narratives temporarily united massive populations to overcome these hurdles, but the fall of the 20th century empires marked the collapse of those unifying master stories. Together is not a pre-existing cohesive army waiting for orders. It is a highly fragile, incredibly difficult negotiation against our own human nature and the systemic traps we build for ourselves. So the utopian blueprints are an illusion. Our definitions of progress are contradictory, and acting collectively borders on the impossible. But abandoning the master plan is not an excuse for cynicism, and it certainly isn't an excuse for paralysis. Instead, we must shift our metrics for success. We have to stop trying to construct perfect end-state utopias and start exercising profound humility and highly localized responsibility. The philosopher Hans Jonas argued for a new principle of responsibility. Given our immense technological power to destroy the planet, our primary ethical metric must be securing the basic survival of future generations, not chasing an idealized paradise. The economist Amartya Sen builds on this by urging us to focus on real-world capabilities. Rather than judging a society by abstract economic perfection, we should measure success by the practical, everyday freedoms individuals have to lead the lives they value. This requires a specific psychological disposition. The dissident and statesman Václav Havel called it lucid hope. It is the certainty that taking a specific action makes sense simply because it is right, regardless of whether ultimate victory is guaranteed. Building a better world is not a final destination we will ever arrive at. It is an ongoing, imperfect, and entirely Sisyphean task. But the act of pushing that boulder, of maintaining our fragile institutions and caring for the people within them, is exactly what gives human existence its meaning.